do you say there, all you potatoes and molasses? Alright everyone, I'll go ahead and acknowledge the elephant costume in the room. Over the Garden Wall is not a movie, but a TV miniseries. So am I even allowed to talk about it on a movie channel? To answer that question, I'll simply say,
whatever, I do what I want.
To give my history with this show, a friend of mine recommended it to me a couple years back, and my wife and I have made it an autumn time regular ever since. And with that season coming upon us, I thought Greg and Wirt would make a perfect pair for a character analysis. More specifically, I thought it would be fun to take a look at each brother's strengths and weaknesses, how they play off of each other, and how they ultimately help each other grow. Now, if you haven't watched the series yet, I highly recommend you do so, because I will be getting into spoilers for the video. It's hilarious, endearing, and perfect for this time of year. From their very first actions in the very first entry, we see that Wirt is all about fixing the situation.
I mean, what are we doing out here?
We're walking home.
Greg, I think we're lost. We should have left a trail or something.
They're lost in the woods, they didn't leave a trail, and they've got to figure out a way back home. Greg, on the other hand, being the younger, less mature brother, is just trying to figure out a name for his newly adopted frog.
Thomas Tambourine, Legface McCollin, Artichoke, Penguin Pete, Steve.
And when Wirt mentions the aforementioned idea of leaving a trail, well...
I can leave a trail of candy from my pants.
Not exactly helpful at this point, Greg. And you know, I think this simple introduction perfectly sums up not only these two characters, but the arc they each go on over the course of the story. While they both serve as our protagonists, I think most fans would agree that Wirt is the main character by the end, as he is the character who goes through the most change. However, I would urge you not to discount the change and growth Greg also goes through. I actually think it's crucial to the end of the series and is actually really touching. But I shouldn't get ahead of myself. To state the obvious about Wirt, he's a nervous wreck. Not only about his and his brother's predicament, but about his life and personal direction.
Sometimes I feel like I'm just like a boat, drifting away from where I want to be, who I want to be.
Now, Wirt is a teenager, and many of us can relate to his fears of social rejection. Even though these fears seem to be unfounded, and he's actually pretty well liked by everyone back home, including his crush, Sarah. To put it bluntly, he's a worrywart. I don't know if the name Wirt is a deliberate allusion to that trait, but I found it interesting when I made the connection. And while his uneasy nature can be burdensome, the flip side is that he's eager to problem solve. Boy, am I just now realizing how much I relate to Wirt. My parents used to tell me I'd give myself an ulcer if I didn't stop worrying about everything, and I've always wanted to fix things before they got out of hand. But enough about me. Wirt does a good job thinking on his feet. When they're in the tavern, he realizes the townsfolk prefer to communicate in song, and when they demand he does the same, he throws a little jingle together just to satisfy them.
My name is Wirt, and his name is Greg. We're related cause my mom remarried and then gave birth to him with my stepdad.
And later, at Quincy Endicott's mansion, he does a good bit of detective work to uncover the secrets of the supposed ghost haunting the place.
Hey, does this room look different to you?
How so?
It's like French Rococo style.
Unfortunately, in the fantastical world the two brothers have found themselves in, a lot of the logic and reasoning Wirt relies on can only get him so far. And near the end, he's left pessimistic and just done making any effort. And this is where I turn my attention to Greg. In contrast to his brother, Greg is ever cheerful, optimistic, and just positive in the face of everything and everyone they come across.
So my theory is, hot dogs are not actually dogs, regardless of what they teach in school.
Much of this can likely be chalked up to his childhood innocence. He hasn't had to go through those awkward teenage years just yet. But, in the same way Wirt's concerted efforts help them through their journey, so too does Greg's silliness and charm. However, it could also be argued that many of Greg's antics get them into a lot of their trouble.
Huh?
Greg! Our pennies!
So it's clear that Greg definitely has some growth to do himself. He has to learn that some situations need to be taken seriously. Or, as his older brother so eloquently puts it,
You need to stop acting ridiculous all the time.
Huh?
and to Greg's credit, after he dreams of his own mini-adventure in the cartoonish Cloud City, he steps up to his responsibility, chooses to take Wirt's place, and hands himself over to the Beast. But this is where I really think our two characters effectively reconcile their personalities. In the final entry, we see Greg following our antagonist's orders, but still in his own silly way.
Did you fetch for me the golden comb?
Will that work?
This is a honeycomb.
Golden comb of honey.
And even as he's being turned into an Edelwood tree, he still can't help himself.
Oh, geez, the leaves are even growing inside of him.
No, I was just eating leaves.
At this point, the beast enters to trick Wirt into replacing the woodsman as his new servant, keeping the lantern lit with his brother's soul inside. Wirt is almost ready to succumb to this fate, but instead realizes that, yeah, that's dumb. In his typical reasoning manner, he's able to deduce that the lantern actually holds the beast's soul. And then, very much unlike his typical nervous self, he confidently walks away, optimistic that he and Greg are headed home, leaving the woodsman to end the beast's reign of terror. So what exactly did we learn here? Well, at one point, I would have simply said that it was Greg's childhood innocence that finally saved the day, and I still believe that to be mostly true. But at the same time, I think we learned that hope and optimism are absolutely necessary in facing our problems, but also that we are required to aim that hope and optimism toward our goals and responsibilities. Yes, Greg's sense of wonder helped lead them to victory, but it needed to find direction to achieve that victory. And so, Wirt learns that life offers many blessings, and that there's reason to be hopeful and not so worrisome. While Greg learns that as he grows up, he'll be stepping into some responsibility. And really, it's not just the final confrontation that we see their strengths working together. It's my own headcanon that the benefit concert for Miss Langtry's school was Greg's bright idea, but that it was Wirt who managed to organize the whole thing. They worked together to free Lorna from the demon possessing her, and over the course of things, they softened Beatrice's heart. Ultimately, through this mysterious adventure, they helped each other grow up and grow closer. And yes, there is the reveal that it all could have just been some sort of dream. So maybe the whole thing was just a lie. But if it was a lie, I've got to say, it's certainly one of
the loveliest lies of all.
I've been Kenny Steps. Take it easy, and keep stepping into the movies.